Hey, well, in the last video you saw everything outside the tractor, well, except for the turbo. I was running a Air Research T18 A90 and then a 93. Would have started out when I was really starting out with a 95. But, had a there's a few of them sitting over there on the shelf from when I was pulling. Last turbo I had on there had a 4.1 wheel on it, but anyhow, for inside the engine, you might think I just pretty much had a stock 619 with a turbo and big pump on it, but I made quite a few changes inside there. I'll show you a couple of them. Everything in the reciprocating assembly of that 619 was heavy. I know weight going up and down is not your best friend when you're trying to crank some RPM, so I was looking for ways to cut down on the reciprocating weight of the piston and the pin end of the rod. So tried to cut down on the weight of the reciprocating assembly, and one of the first things I did was I took the pistons and marked the skirt like this and cut this part off, just leaving this part here in the middle to give the piston more stability, and then cut the bottom right off and marked it, and then believe it or not, took a hand hacksaw and cut this part off where it had the balancing pads on, and cut that off, and it made it look more like a automotive type piston. Here's one that I did see, and after I realized it was taking a heck of a long time to saw them with a hand hacksaw, I had a friend of mine that had a metal bandsaw, and I went up there and cut them all off on his metal bandsaw and smoothed them up with a flat file. Because back then I did not have any machining tools. I had a drill press, and I did have a lathe. I had one little lathe, and I had a drill press, and I had a cutting torch, handheld grinders, and little die grinders, and hand tools, hammers and wrenches, sockets. Did have a torque wrench, but didn't have a lot of machining tools. I had to make do. But so we cut the skirt of the pistons, made them look more like an automotive piston. There, see, and this is the rod and the pin for the stock 619 8630 8640 engine. You can see how big this pin is. That thing weighs a heck of a lot. It's very large, and the pin end is very big on there. And so I got to thinking, the naturally aspirated 5020 engine, the 531, the pin is a lot smaller. It's a lot smaller pin, a lot lighter weight. See the difference in them? It's half the weight, probably, I would say close to it, of the 619 pin. And the rod, as an extra added bonus, is longer. So I decided I would use these naturally aspirated 5020 rods and these little pins in the pistons. But obviously this pin is a little loose in there. I don't think we'd be able to get away with that. So obviously I had to make some bushings. So I got me a couple of sticks of this. It's called a cord bronze bar. Got it from McMaster Car. This is what's left. I got two of them. They were a foot long, and I machined out these bushings on my lathe. Even had the groove in there for your snap ring, and these bushings would fit in that. It's the same diameter, a little bit tighter fit in the piston, same diameter as the big wrist pin, and that would go in there, and the smaller pin fits in there just right. So made them up. And then you got a little issue. Then you got the issue of, since the rod is longer, your piston will go up a little higher in your bore. So I had to cut off about a 1/4 inch, a little more than a 1/4 inch off the top of the piston on the lathe. I would try to do it before I cut the skirt, because it made it much easier to hold it in the lathe if I did it before I cut the skirt. So anyhow, I chucked that up in the lathe, cut a 1/4 inch off the top, 250 thousandths off top of the piston. Then I had to remachine the bowl. As you can see, that's what I did in here. And I had to make the bowl a lot bigger because I was decompressing. Wanted the compression to get down. This compression on this one's a 15.5 to 1 stock, and I wanted this compression to be lower than that. I got this down about around 13 to 1. That's what the compression I had was on it. And then we had, because we had a ground cam, had to cut some valve reliefs. How to cut the valve reliefs. Let me show you. Like I say, I didn't have a milling machine or anything. Just had a little drill press. And so I made this thing up. Had a piece of flat stock, square stock, excuse me. Had a piece of square stock I welded to an old valve, the head of a valve, and sharpened it and made a fly cutter. At that time I didn't even know the term fly cutter. I didn't know that's what it was called, but made up a fly cutter and chucked it up in my drill press and turned the speed up fast as it would go. Chucked up just like that. Put the drill press in the highest speed it had and went to town. But first I had to make sure I had something to hold this piston, so I made up something very simple, and these long bolts that would go down through corresponding slots in here and hold the thing down. I'd have him bolted down just like that and chucked up in there, and away I would go. I was in my early 20s and had a God-given talent to work with mechanical stuff. I don't know why, but I'm thankful that I was blessed with that. Anyway, I knew I should get them pistons light. It would run better, and I liked the idea of longer rods. I didn't stroke anything or anything. At that time, everybody was stroking them to 680. They were stroking them and putting 466 rods in there, which are too darn short, and getting terrible rod angle. And I think they were working against themselves. But this engine ran a lot freer. And of course, once I did all this work to them, the pistons did not weigh the same anymore. They all were different weights, and we had to have it balanced, didn't we? The only way to do that was to balance them up, and I was, like I say, trying to do everything cheaply as I could, because I didn't have a lot of disposable income. So I made up little balance beam scales and balanced the pistons on my homemade scales. and also balance the rods too. I had a jig made up that I could balance the rods, the total weight, and also end for end. I'll show you. I showed it in a video not too long ago, but in case you didn't see it, I'll show you my scales. These are my fancy dancy homemade balance beam scales. Two little indicators on here and one indicator in the middle that's on the beam, and when you have the pistons on there, and the middle indicator is exactly between the two other indicators, you know you got imbalanced. So let me get a couple pistons to throw on there. Okay, as you can see, I got a couple pistons on there, and the one on the right is obviously heavier. As you can see, that the indicator is way over. Yes, sir. This one has one ring on it. Why it's heavier, but I just wanted to give you a little demonstration. This is what I use to balance the pistons and the rods in my Prostock buckshot. And if you look at these pistons, you'll notice they have been coated. This was back in the 80s, and not too many people were coating things, but I thought it was worthwhile. Ceramic coated the top of the piston, and the skirts were coated with this slick stuff. I did spend a little bit of money on that. I figured it was worth it. Now this one, you can see I had an issue with. This piston came apart. Don't know exactly what happened, but he came apart. Okay, so that's taking care of the reciprocating assembly. What do we do with the head? Well, really poured it and polished the heck out of it, and like I say, didn't have a lot of money to spend. I did have the valves that were out of the stock 531, which was an aspirated engine that came in the tractor. I saved some things I thought I could use, and I put the aspirated valves in the turbocharged head. Was there a little bit bigger, and I opened up the valve pocket sufficiently. A lot of people put in bigger valves and they don't open up the head enough where the valve seat in there, and the bigger valve is just more of an obstruction for the air to go around or the exhaust to go around to get out. But I made sure I opened it up as much as I possibly could and put the valve seat out towards the tip of the edge of the valve itself, so that it wouldn't have to go around so much of an obstruction. So we got it to flow as good as I thought I could. And man, lots of things are heavy in this engine. I knew it was going to be a problem closing the valves. I shimmed up the valve springs a little bit, but I also wanted to get rid of some of the weight that goes up and down. A lot of people don't even think about the weight of the lifters. The lifters are huge in this thing, and they're almost solid. I actually could not find one to make the video, but I got a socket that's just about the same size. This is the size of the lifters in the thing. This is the size of the lifters, and they're almost solid, and they're very, very heavy. And I said, man, that's not a good idea to have them, because the valve springs not just have to close the valves, they have to push this down, the lifters down too, and they're really heavy. Meaning, even though they got to go down, gravity at that speed, at that rapidity, at that RPM, that they go up and down, that is not going to have any effect on it at all. It's the inertia of something that heavy having to be pushed down. You'd need really heavy valve springs, and I didn't have them. I shimmed up what I had. So I took a mushroom tappets, mushroom lifters out of 466, and put in there. They were a whole lot lighter. And I got another cord bronze bar, but just about a little bit larger diameter than the stock lifters were. This is what's left of one of them, and I machined them and pressed them into the bore. Had machined out so these mushroom tappets would fit right in there, and it was real nice, worked out beautiful. And pressed them into the block. Like I say, this is just what was left over from the bar after I finished machining some of the others, or this is a reject piece or something. Because I see it's been knurled. I must have cut it a little too small. I don't know. But at any rate, it's what's left over. And press these bushings up because they were not this short. I mean, they were good and long. Pressed them up in the block, Loctited them up in there. I even drilled holes in the block and put a little, like 5/16 bolt in there to hold them, because I want to make sure they weren't going to move. So anyway, they put them in there, and that worked like a charm. And then the push rods themselves are big around as they're big around as your thumb almost in there. They're huge. I don't know if they're 9/16 or bigger than that. They're really big. And I took, because I needed to make different length ones anyway, because of the ground cam and the different lifters. I took the stock aspirated 531 push rods and cut them the right length, and I had to machine the end out on the lathe. I think I cut the end, the ball end on the lathe, and got them the right length and pressed them back in there. And that's what I ran till I started bending them, and I had some made later on, but they lasted a good while, till I started really getting up into higher RPMs. But anyway, that's some of the things inside there. Like I say, we did a lot of porting to the head, opening valves up, and tried to get a lot of weight down on my reciprocating assembly, and all these things adding up make for a good running engine. And it ran good, and it was a lot easier on it to have less weight going up and down. Them longer rods, they help too. I think people are finding out long rods are the way to go, and it was neat doing stuff back then. Like I say, I didn't have the machining stuff that I have now, but we were able to get it done. That's what when you know what you need to do and you're resourceful and you just don't have money to waste and throw around, you can figure out how to do things on your own and get the job done, and build something that'll last and perform well. And like I say, the Mack pump I had on there was 13 millimeter Mack truck injection pump, and it ran good. Everything just came together. It was just it wasn't the best in the world. If I'd have had a better camshaft, I think it would have been at the top on a national level. But my cam was woefully inadequate. It was a ground cam, but it wasn't. They didn't have cam technology back then. There were some guys that had stumbled onto the right cam grind. They were looking good and sounding good. But, it's the one thing I didn't have. But anyway, we had a lot of fun. It stayed together. So anyway, as you can see, wasn't nothing real fancy. Bunch of homemade stuff, but we were able to do it, and had a good time for not much money. Alright, hope you enjoyed watching this. Like I say, homemade tools, repurposing parts, figuring out how to make what you need out of what you got. We had a good time. Leave a comment, give a thumbs up. Alright, hope you enjoyed watching. We'll catch you later. See ya. Hey, you guys that are saying I shouldn't be giving away all my secrets, just remember these are 40-year-old secrets. They ain't much ain't much new in there for most people. I like showing what I was able to do back then. Believe me, I got plenty of new secrets that I ain't going to tell. So still got plenty of good secrets, plenty of them. We got 3 brains now instead of just 1, me and the 2 boys. So we ain't giving away them secrets, not cheaply anyhow. So anyway, catch you later.
Alright, here we go. Bill Grimes, ready to build on. Bringing the RPMs up. We're ready to get her underway. Let me bring the RPMs up. Pulling the clock down. We're underway. And the buck John Deere, a good run. Right there, boy. Pull them out there. And we get another Prostocker in the pull-off. Buckshot.